What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to be talking about the overall season for our head coach for the Chicago Bulls, Billy Donovan. And we're going to take a deeper dive as to whether his season was successful, was it mediocre, or was it disappointing for the Chicago Bulls? And overall, was he as bad as people actually tended to say that he was? Because I got a lot of comments, especially at the later part of our season, basically, I guess, attacking Billy Donovan, or just, I guess, critiquing Billy Donovan, let's say, about his performance as the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. And I want to kind of take a deeper dive as to whether it was his fault for a lot of the mistakes or a lot of the failures that we had towards the end of the season, or was it because the team just overachieved a little bit at the beginning and just simply could not, I guess, sustain their success over the course of time? We'll be talking all about that in this video. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about Billy Donovan's overall, I guess, achievements with this Chicago Bulls team, and whether or not you think he should be the head coach for the Chicago Bulls next year. First thing I want to say when it comes to Billy Donovan, because I feel like this is a hard one to really cover, in all honesty, I want to go back to some of the things that I said about Billy Donovan, I guess 2 years ago when we signed him for the first time with the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, with that team that had not the best talent there, but again, I think we did fight very well. We made mid-season trades and stuff of that nature. And I kind of want to talk about Billy Donovan from then, and if some of those things hold merit now. So I've always said when it comes to Billy Donovan, again, some of the things that I say doesn't hold merit. Some of them that I said I think does hold merit until now. One of the things I've praised about Billy Donovan throughout the course of his NBA career is he has the ability to find ways to, I guess, make teams successful from the very beginning of the team as soon as they're formed. Whether it's a younger type of team, whether it's a team that had to adjust from their superstars leaving, stuff like that. He's always had to play with a different team every single year in the NBA. There was never real stability in his coaching when it comes to his OKC Thunder days, and when it comes to, obviously, his Chicago Bulls days as well. Just giving examples, obviously he had the Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant team. I'm not sure if he actually was with James Harden as well, but then obviously it went to just Russell Westbrook, and then it went from I think just Chris Paul, stuff like that. He comes to the Chicago Bulls, and I'm just talking about the superstar players, by the way. I think some of the other guys just remain the same for the most part. Then obviously coming to the Chicago Bulls, where it's Zach LaVine and Kobe White, and Thaddeus Young, Wendell Lowry, that team. And obviously this season we had obviously Lonzo, DeMar, Zach, Vucevic, Patrick Williams, then coming with Kobe White as well, Io. Again, probably one of his better teams at the Chicago Bulls stages of his career. So I feel like in almost all the seasons, he's done successful things from the very beginning. He was able to make and find ways to make this team gel at the very beginning. Again, a team that doesn't necessarily have great chemistry with each other the whole time is something that could be very much be a reason as to why teams start slow. But I felt like that was the opposite for the Chicago Bulls this season, at least. He started off fantastically well. This team to be at its best at the very early stages of the year. We seem to be the most cohesive. We seem to have the most team chemistry at the beginning of the year. And we started to finish the season relatively slow, not really knowing our identity, not being able to play the way that we wanted to play, and the coach wanting to play, the coach trying to find answers and solutions to the Chicago Bulls' mistakes, which I personally think he didn't find, in all honesty, towards the end of the season. All of those things, I think, a credit and a discredit to Billy Donovan, because I think he's always found ways to adjust and adapt well to the start of the season, or starts the seasons with new teams. And I do feel like at times he does make, I guess, the latter of the season not necessarily a fun time for the Chicago Bulls. That's the first thing I have to get out of the way. He's always been good when it comes to new teams and adapting to new teams, allowing them to play their type of way and being successful at that. I've also said, in terms of, speaking of adapting, I've also always felt that Billy Donovan was a coach that was able to adapt to teams. Being able to adapt and have his, I guess, intelligence is to adapt to other ways that we can play with this team. And in all honesty, I think that's probably the biggest issue that we saw from this Chicago Bulls team, not being able to truly adapt to how other teams like to play. I guess the example would be the use of small ball here. I feel like we had constant small ball all the time, all day, every day. And I felt like maybe that wasn't the key going into it, but it's definitely the outcome that ended up happening for the Chicago Bulls. Again, I'll never understand why we use Derrick Jones Jr. as the backup center, no matter how well sometimes he played in that position. Even I've come to say at one point in the season, I trust Derrick Jones Jr. as a backup center, but that's small ball beyond belief in my opinion. And I felt like the overuse of small ball is something that could be credited to Billy Donovan and how he wanted to do things, I guess, with the Chicago Bulls team. So I always felt like we did have a little bit more we could have used on the bigger side. Again, someone that hasn't got any minutes whatsoever for the Chicago Bulls outside of a few games here and there in garbage time. I feel like we could have used Marko Siminovic if you didn't trust Tony Bradley that much. And obviously that got fixed with Tristan Thompson coming in. One thing that you can give a lot of credit to is that he did use Tristan Thompson as soon as Tristan Thompson came to the Chicago Bulls, and that kind of ended that Derrick Jones Jr. backup center position type of nonsense. And he went with a small ball center in Tristan Thompson, a 6'10", I believe, center, maybe 6'9", I'm not too sure. We went with a little bit of a smaller option there. That probably could have played power forward if we gave a chance for Tristan Thompson to do that. I feel like another weakness to Billy Donovan as well is the lack of experiments that was actually used around the Chicago Bulls team. Again, when you have a guy like Tristan Thompson that's been known to play power forward and center his entire career, and only really seeing that experiment maybe once or twice for the Chicago Bulls team, in my opinion, there needs to be more experiments around the team. I think there needs to be more playing styles around the team. And I guess the one thing that leads to is predictability, being too predictable. And I've always said that throughout the course of the year. It's not a bad thing to be predictable, but you have to be predictable in the point where you're too good and other teams can't stop it. And I don't think the Chicago Bulls were ever at that stage where we were too good, too predictable as well. Because at the end of the day, we probably would have been competing for a championship if that's the case. If you look at teams like Milwaukee, you look at teams like Boston right now, you look at teams like Dallas, you look at teams like Phoenix, I think they are very predictable teams. Again, we get at that stage of the season where most teams know the scouting report against each other. Most teams can predict what others can do. But at the end of the day, it comes down to being able to stop what other teams can do. And sometimes being predictable doesn't mean you can stop other teams. I felt like at that point with the Chicago Bulls, we just simply weren't good enough and we were too predictable. So teams found game plans, teams found solutions. We got found out very early, or at least at the second half of the year. We got found out very quickly, and we didn't make really any significant adjustments for I guess, for those predictabilities. But also, in saying that, I'm going to come to Billy Donovan's defense here. How much more adjustments could he have truly made in terms of the Chicago Bulls team than what he did? I felt like at the end of the day, again, I guess the example here would be the backup center position. Tristan Thompson and Tony Bradley or Derrick Jones Jr. I felt like at the end, he just couldn't trust any of them. And because the truth is, not really any of them kind of achieved what we probably wanted them to achieve. If Tony Bradley achieved what we wanted out of him, we wouldn't be needing a backup center position. We wouldn't need to be talking about the backup center position. If Tristan Thompson achieved what he needed to achieve, then we wouldn't be talking about getting another backup center next season or in free agency or from the draft, wherever we get that backup center or that rim protector that we need. We wouldn't be talking about that if Tristan Thompson delivered on what we thought he could. And I guess the same goes with even Vucevic as the starting center. It goes with a lot of players on this team. If they achieved to the level that we thought they could, we wouldn't be talking about replacements. We wouldn't be talking about sign and trades. We wouldn't be talking about any of these situations. And that's the point that I'm getting at. I feel like this team overall just wasn't sustainable. I think that this team became too good too early, and we got found out very quickly. And I think some of the players as well holds that responsibility of, I guess, not achieving for the Chicago Bulls and not being able to keep that record up. So I don't put all the blame on Billy Donovan. I feel like that was the go-to. Many people just thought, wow, we're losing so often. We lose so many games in the second half of the season. Billy Donovan doesn't know what to do. There's no answers there for the Chicago Bulls. But as much as that is obviously his responsibility as the head coach to find ways for us to improve and to get us out of slumps and to find ideas that allow us to work, I also feel like the players hold the responsibility for, I guess, not being able to beat a good team all year. And that does come down to the players. As much as we have head coaching issues, I guess you could say, maybe our head coach isn't the top of the top tier head coach, it also does come down to the players and how the players approached games. where we were versing these better teams and we couldn't win any of them. You can't put us not winning one single, I guess, top tier team until the NBA playoffs at the time that we versed the top tier team. You can't put that down on Billy Donovan all by himself. Again, when this team was at the highest of the highs they could possibly get, I guess, again, the coaching staff got a lot of praise. Even Chris Fleming as well, someone that took over for the Chicago Bulls for 5 games, ended up doing very well, got 5-0, undefeated as, I guess, a head coach for the Chicago Bulls. I think in all of those situations, Billy Donovan and the coaching staff got massive praise. But obviously, when we just fell off, I guess Billy Donovan was the first target, the first, I guess, line in the fire. And that's what a lot of the blame went down to. But I don't feel it's all Billy Donovan's fault in all honesty. And I thought his season was just as good as everybody else's in terms of players. I feel like that's where Billy Donovan is. Now, should he be back for the Chicago Bulls next year? I have no doubts in my mind that Billy Donovan will be back for the Chicago Bulls next year. And I guess that's when his credentials will be, I guess, challenge or not challenge. This is the year for Billy Donovan where either he flourishes with the Chicago Bulls team and we want him for, I guess, the long term, even beyond his contract that he's currently on, or he's going to be on the hot seat and people want him to be removed. And next season will tell all in terms of that retrospect. But I do want Billy Donovan here next year. Again, having a fair crack at it as the head coach is the most important thing. As much as we talk about head coaches, he's nowhere near as bad as Jim Boylen. And I even feel Fred Hoiberg, he's better than Fred Hoiberg, but Fred Hoiberg didn't get the team that he necessarily wanted. But Billy Donovan, in my opinion, is streets and levels above those head coaches. And the players have said that from the very beginning to the very end of the season. He's one of the better head coaches in the NBA. He may not be the answer for a championship team. I don't know that yet, but we got to give him another chance next year to see if he can deliver what we want him to deliver for the Chicago Bulls. That's a successful team, but most importantly, an improved team than what we saw this year, and a consistent team compared to what we saw this year. So I do feel like that's a bulk of the responsibility that does come down to Billy Donovan. Being consistent, being able to find ways where we can, I guess, sustain our play with the Chicago Bulls team. That comes down to experiments and finding experiments that works. That comes down to playing different lineups, versatile lineups. That basically comes down to team morale. When teams are going on massive losing streaks, what is Billy Donovan doing to pick them back up and try to get them to go again? What's the motivation there? Because I do feel like we lost a lot of that motivation and confidence at the end of the year. So again, all of those things need to be improved upon. All of those things need to be worked at. Maybe the players will allow him to have an easier job as well next year. We'll just have to wait and see. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care.